Hello and welcome back to another Theory Thursday. Today we're going over a pretty fun concept, the 6 steps to start improvising. Where do you even start? How do you think about it? If I'm looking at a jazz chart and I see this chord show up, what am I supposed to play over it? We'll talk about it. That's what we're going over today. If you've been enjoying these, please like and subscribe. And to stay in the know, you can hit that little bell icon. That'll let you know when new videos come out. But if you're watching this, you probably already know we got new videos every Tuesday and every Thursday. So I have my Casio Duro, aka the Casio Marlin on. This is a dive watch. One of my favorites. And no tie on today. What the heck, John? I know, feeling a little casual. So that's it. So without further ado, the 6 steps to start improvising. Let's go. Hello and welcome back to another Theory Thursday. Today we are looking at steps to start improvising. Now this will be a little bit less technical and a little more big idea, overarching themes, and won't do any examples today, but I will lay it out and maybe I'll get the guitar out another day. So steps to start improvising. I'll lay them all out here just so you have them all, and then we'll talk about each one individually. So first of all, getting your major scale, your minor scale, your pentatonic scale all down and into your hands, being able to play over the changes. And we'll talk about what that means in just a sec. Number 2, get your chords visualized in at least one spot on the neck. I would start with a spot you're familiar with. If you want, you can do those first 5 frets. Number 3, guide tones. So what we're talking about here is the 3rd and the 7th of whatever chord you're playing. So for example, if we're talking about a C chord, that would be the E and the B, right? A C major 7 would be an E and a B. Number 4, arpeggios. Being able to play a major 7 arpeggio, being able to play a dominant 7 arpeggio, being able to play a minor arpeggio, okay? Number 5, connect the arpeggios with your next closest note, and then when you get that down, connect them using chromaticism if possible. We'll talk about that more in depth when we get there. And finally, play inside the changes and outside the changes, and then weave them together, okay? So this is a quick, short list of simple, clear steps that you can take to start improvising if you haven't yet, or if you have started and are just looking for the next step and just need a direction, this would be what you're looking for. So let's talk about each one of these. The major scale, the minor scale, and the pentatonic scale. I have other videos on this, so I'm not going to draw these out. If you're curious about how to play them, you go look at my my scale videos. But these scales are the building blocks of everything we do in Western music, right? And then the next step on these guys would be your modes. Now, it totally depends on how you are looking at the music. For example, if you are playing something in the key of C and a G7 chord comes up and you're trying to improvise, there's a train of thought that says play a G Mixolydian scale over that. Now that's a great way to think about it. That's if you are really into the modes. There are other ways to think about this though. So if you're not, I think understanding the modes is important, knowing what they are, but you don't need to necessarily think like that when you're improvising. For example, when I see a G7 and we're in the key of C, I'm just thinking dominant 7. I'll play a G dominant arpeggio, or you can start a diminished scale on the flat 9 of a G7, just because I know it's the 5 chord leading to the 1. So there's numerous ways you can voice that, and just running up the G Mixolydian scale is great. taking pieces out of it, but you're essentially doing the same thing with a G dominant 7 arpeggio, or thinking about it as a C scale starting on G. So don't get too bogged down if you haven't gotten into the modes yet. It's all just a matter of thinking. It's a matter of how your mindset is on it. So major scale, minor scale, pentatonic. Those are the top 3 anyway to get you started, okay? Second, get your chords visualized in one spot of the neck. So let's go over to the fretboard and just take a look at what I'm talking about here. So let's just use C for a good key to use. So when I'm talking about get your chords visualized in one part of the neck, here's what I'm talking about. Let's pick these first, you know what, we'll go even less than that. Let's do the first 5, right? This is what we're looking at. We need to get our chords visualized right here. So if we're playing in the key of C, what is your C chord? Well, here's your standard C chord, right? You could also play a C major 7 like this. I'm going to make these circles just so we don't confuse the... Okay, you could also just play a regular C bar chord using your A shape. Okay, you could also start with a C major 9 chord. That's a beautiful chord. You could do a C 6-9 chord, right? That's a beautiful chord. Okay, so let me just erase these. Getting chords visualized. If you don't know where to start and are, yeah, but John, what chords? You know, you're talking about C 6-9, C major 7, C whatever. Just start with your major 7s. If we're talking about jazz, you always need to have a 7. Okay, so what are those? It's your major 7s. It's your dominant 7s. It's your diminished 7s. Okay. And of course your minor 7s. I should have said that before diminished, but okay. And it of course it goes on after that. You know, there's it's minor, major 7s, your half diminished chords, and it goes on. But don't worry about it right now. Okay, these are the 4 pillars, right? The 4 main ones. If you can get these down, everything else will be a breeze. So let's talk about the key of C. You want a C major 7 chord. All right, so get that into your hands, and so when a C comes up in the chord chart, if you're gonna try to play notes, this is a great note to start on. This is a great note to start on, right? Because they're actually in the chord. Okay, that's what we would call chord tones. So this is a C, this is a B, this is a G, and that's your E. Okay, that's a C major 7. So then we would just continue. Let's say the G is the next chord in whatever song you're playing. Well, we know our regular G chord, right, like this. But let's talk about it with a major 7. So you could do it like this. That's a G major 7. We would probably want a dominant 7 because we're in the key of C, and that's theoretically what would come up if we're just playing a straight C, something in the key of C. So that's a great one. I would recommend, just like that C, not using open chords. So you could do this. You could bar the 3rd fret. You could get, oops, right here. Right here. So that's a G7. Okay, so any of these notes you can play. What do we have here? G, D, that's F, that's your dominant 7, 3rd, 5th again, and then your root again. Okay, there's a G7. And then just for fun, let's do one more. Let's do the 4 chord, because that's probably what'll show up. Now there's a couple ways you could do this. Again, let's try to steer clear of the open chords. So let's do this. Let's do, we're going to do major 7 because we're dealing with a 4 chord here. So let's do this, 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 and this. Okay. And we're not playing the 5th string. We're going to skip that. We're not going to play. You technically could play this one because it's that's the major 7, but we're not going to, just to keep things closed off. So what do we have here? We have our F. We have our E, which is the major 7. A is the 3rd. C is the 5th. Okay, that's an F major 7. Or sometimes you'd see it like that. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. Get these visualized, know where they are on the fretboard so that when something comes up in the song, you know that you see a G dominant 7. Start on this. That's the 3rd of the chord, right? In your big G7 chord, you could start there. That's a B. And then maybe you want to play the dominant 7. There's an F. That'd be really crunchy, right? That's a great sound going to C. Okay? That's what I'm talking about. Get your chords visualized in one section of the neck. Okay. Guide tones. Now, this is exactly what we were just talking about. So guide tones are the 3rd and the 7th of your chords. Why? Because those are what determine what kind of chord it is necessarily. So let's just break it down. 1, 3, 5, 7. Right? Your tonic tells you what the chord is, right? What's the letter name, basically. And not saying that the bottom note needs to be the root note, right? With inversions, everything. But the 1 of whatever chord you're playing will determine technically what it is. The 3 determines if it's major or minor. Okay, so that's huge. That's huge. Is it major or minor? You know, the differences between those are catastrophic. They're huge. So you need to have the 3rd. That's important. The 5th doesn't do much in terms of voicing the chord. It's really just a stable relationship with the 1. Okay, so it doesn't make a chord major minor, it doesn't make it crunchy or whatever. What you can do, and this is more advanced stuff that we'll get into, way down the road, but augmenting or flatting the 5th does create real cool sounds. But you would do that based on what this is. Okay, so what do I mean by that? The 7 determines whether it's a dominant or if it's a major. So dominant would be more dissonant, and major would be more consonant. Okay, so a regular 7, consonant. Flat 7, dissonant. Okay, it's the difference between a C major 7 and a C dominant 7. Okay, C, E, G, B, and C, E, G, B flat. Okay, this chord you could end a song on. Okay, this chord wants to go to F. Okay, so that's just the theory behind that. Okay, so guide tones, the 3rd and the 7th. The 3rd, because it determines what the tonality of the chord is, right, major or minor, and the 7th, because it determines whether it's consonant or dissonant. So when you're looking at the chord changes, let's say the song is just a simple C, G, F, right? So this would be a major 7, this would be a dominant 7, this would be a major 7. So what are the guide tones here? For C, we know it's an E and a B, right? That's the 3rd and the 7th. For G, we have a B and an F. And for F, we have an A and an E. Okay, now what are you seeing here? Okay, B and B, right? E and E. So it's less work than you're thinking, but playing them together is what's going to give you your cool sound. So you see a C major 7 come up on your chord chart. So just playing the chord, the guide tones together is what's going to get your ear involved in finding these notes. So here's your E and here's your B. Okay, playing those at the same time when a C comes up is going to be a great starting point. Okay, then all of a sudden the G7 pops up. So we take away the E, leave in the B, and all of a sudden you're playing your F. Okay, that would be your next guide tone. And then we get to our F. So if we weren't playing guide tones, if you wanted, I mean, you could just slide this over to A, and all of a sudden you're playing the root and the third, right? I'm getting ahead of myself. So we'll have to get both of these down to get A and E. Okay? And that would be your F major 7. So finding those guide tones, and what you'll notice is these are just your shapes, right? Here's your F major 7 that we talked about earlier. It's right built into the chord. That's why mapping these out are so important. The B and the F for your G is built right into the chord here, right? And the C, or the E and the B is built right into your C major 7 without playing these. Okay, so that's why it's a linear thing. Figuring out where your chords are on the fretboard and then finding the guide tones within them. Okay, guide tones. What's next? Arpeggios. Okay, so this is just the next step in the. Basically you can think of it as a broken up scale, but only hitting the chord tones you're trying to hit. Okay, we're talking about a lot tones, chord tones, guide tones. The guide tones that we just talked about, the third and the seventh, those are what make the chord what it is. They steer your ear into what the song's doing. The chord tones are just simply all of the notes that are in a given chord. So let's map these out again. Let's say we have our C major 7, we have our G7, and we have our F major 7. So first of all, we know that our C major 7 looks like this. This is a C, this is a G, this is a B, and this is an E. Okay? But that's not an arpeggio. That's just a chord. An arpeggio would be taking a chord and running up the chord in order, right? So you'll notice that I don't have C, G, B, E, like how we played it up here. Okay? So let's get these in order. And erase this. We have our C here. Next, E, G. Okay? So the way you read these is just like a scale. You start on the lowest string, and then you read it left to right. Okay? So we'd start here, and then there's nothing else on this string, so we'll go to the next one, and we start all the way to the left. So we'll go here, and then next here. There's nothing else on this string, so we're going to start. Let me get all this out of the way. So that's C, E, G. That's a basic C triad. B, C, E, G. And that will cap it if we're just sticking below the 5th fret. However, you could then hit this B and then this C. So we have a C, an E, a G, B, C. So we have the 1, the 3, the 5, the 7, and then it just repeats. The 1, the 3, the 5, the 7, and then we're back to the 1. Okay, that's a C major 7 arpeggio. And the cool thing about this is you can move, just like bar chords, you can move this whole thing up. So if you wanted to play in E major 7 arpeggio, for example, you take your starting note and move it here. And then you have E, G sharp, B, right? And so on and so forth. D sharp, E. So that's kind of cool. So that's your C major 7 arpeggio. Now running this up and down is going to be just like your chords. Like, you don't want to just do that, but breaking it up and getting a foundation for it will be important. So let's go to the next one. Also, I need to fix this 7. Okay. G7, which is a dominant. We have our G. We have our B. We have our D, F. So that's the dominant 7. G, B, D, F. All right, so I'm breaking our 5th fret line. You could also play it here if you wanted, but for me, it fits better hitting it with my pinky because this is your G right here. Okay, so very similar. You can move this all the way up the fret. If you wanted to play a B7 arpeggio, you just start on the 7th fret, right? Because this is a G, this is a B. Okay, and so that's the gist of it. And we're already getting a little long, so let's just go to the next. Learning your arpeggios, okay? Connect the closest note with whatever your closest note is, and then with chromatism. So what I'm talking about here is being able to link these chords with your arpeggios depending when they come up in the song. So we'll start on a C, and let's say we're just playing for 4 beats. So we have 1, 2, 3. Did I do that right? No, I didn't. C, E, G, B. Okay? C, E, G, B. And now all of a sudden the next chord comes, which is a G. But we're already here. We have a B here. Right? So we're already in the G chord. That's what I'm talking about. What's the next? You ended right here. Now, where's the next closest note for this chord? Well, we're already on it. So then let's just keep going up, but switch over to the G7 arpeggio. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We end here. And all of a sudden, we have an F major 7 chord come up. So this is a G. Where's the next closest chord tone for an F? Well, what's in an F? F, A, C, E. So if we're in a G, we could go either way. We could go up to an A. We could go down to an F. Okay? So that's what I'm talking about. Wherever you end, where's the next closest for whatever the next chord is? Oops. How did I even do that? There we go. So that's what I'm talking about. Getting your arpeggios connected. So if we ended on that G, and then let's just say we went down, we could play that F, we could play the C, we could play the A, we could play the F, and then next chord, let's just say it restarts. You got your C. Well, the next closest note is right here. This is an E, which is the 3rd of C. Okay, so that's the the idea of connecting your chord tones. And then with chromaticism, just the same thing we were doing. We played that G7, and we ended on this G right here, knowing that the next closest chord tone is either an F or an A, or more than a fret away, right? 1, 2, or 1, 2. So instead of going straight to the chord, playing G and then F, play that chromatic note that's not in the key, right? That's what I'm talking about with chromaticism. And it works because you know where you're going. You have a destination. So playing that chromatic note will give tension and then finally get release. Now, this is a real small version of it. It's like playing a dominant 7 chord and then playing the 1 chord. But it's the same idea. It's creating tension and then release. Okay, so that's what I mean by playing with chromaticism. And what do I have finally? Play inside and outside the changes and weave them together. Okay, so playing outside of the changes is like step 1. Okay, learning your major scale, your minor scale, your pentatonic. We'll just keep the chords we've been using. C, major 7, G, 7, F, major 7. Let's say these chords are going by and you're just throwing down a C major scale, right? Fine, whatever. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And you can run that up and down and it's going to sound okay because you're in the key of C, right? However, if you are going and the chord F comes and you play this note, which is a B, it's a B natural, it's not going to sound as sweet as if you were playing this note. That's an A. Why? Because a B is not in an F chord. Okay? An A is. So that's what everyone talks about when they're talking about playing inside the changes, playing outside the changes. There's 2 ways you can mention it: playing outside, or sometimes people call it playing over the changes, right? Because this is what's going on harmonically, and you're just playing over top all of it, not really worrying about playing a note here that doesn't fit into there, because what you're worried about is the key that's listed over here. Now, playing inside the changes is this is what's going on harmonically, and you are in here playing an E and a B. And then when we get here, you prioritize playing a B and an F, right? Because that's what's in this chord. And when you get here, not playing that B, playing that A and playing that E. Okay, so that's what they're talking about. They're playing over top of the changes, and they're playing inside the changes. Now, each of them have their spot to and their usefulness. So it's not to bash one or the other. You should be able to play both, and that's where it gets real cool, because then you can weave them together. Oops, didn't mean to erase that. Weave them together. Okay, so I think that's enough for today. I went a little bit longer than I thought I was going to, and so we'll just stop there. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully it was a little bit helpful, and we'll get the guitar out and stuff and demonstrate some of these next time. So hopefully you're having a good day, and we'll talk soon. Thanks. Bye.